Hi and welcome to Creative AI. I am PixelPia. Today I will continue my series about the method I developed and called Voicecraft. Voicecraft is a method of developing writing voices that has personality and are defined and sounds real. In my last video I showed you how 4 different voices interpret the same assignment. Today we're gonna have a little bit more fun with these voices. We are gonna use ChatGPT and have 3 of my voices interact with each other in a writing assignment. So let's move over to my computer. So here we are in my ChatGPT, and as I said, we are gonna have 3 artists collaborate about a blog post. And the question, as you can see on the screen, is who is the artist when AI does all the work? The very first actor in this is Sven. You have met him before if you have followed my series. Sven is a sharp, sardonic and hyper-articulate. He dissects ideas with surgical precision and rarely lets sentiment through. Where Hannah leads with care and Elias with reference, Sven leads with critique. He doesn't trust beauty, but he respects clarity, and he always calls out what others politely avoid. If you have met Sven before, you know that he leans into satire. The first thing we are going to do is ask each of these voices to write an intro paragraph to that question. So let's start with Sven. Sven, can you write an intro paragraph to a blog post with the title, "Who is the artist when AI does all the work?" And the answer is sure. Here's Sven's intro paragraph. Who is the artist when AI does all the work? That's the wrong question, but it's the one everyone keeps asking. As if creativity were a baton you could pass from human to machine. What we should be asking is, who set the parameters, who shaped the outcome, and who's willing to take the blame when it's terrible? Spoiler, it's still us. Now, can Elias write an intro on the same topic? And notice here that I have used these voices so much so I don't have to remind them about their personality or use my voice sheet from the Voicecraft workbook. So Elias Nocturne. Elias writes like he's remembering a dream, poetic, formal, and steeped in metaphor. He treats language as a ritual, unlike Sven's blunt logic or Hannah's warmth. Elias weaves meaning through mood and rhythm. He doesn't argue, he evokes. His truth arrives like fog, gentle, enveloping, and hard to hold. So when I asked ChatGPT to write as Elias with the same topic, we got, who is the artist when AI does all the work? Maybe it's the one who asked the question in the first place, the one who saw something missing, something shimmering at the edge of patterns and chaos, and reached for it anyway. Machines can render, they can remix, but they don't ache to make. That restless pull, that's still ours. So that was 2 different versions of the same topic. The third one we are gonna ask to write is Hannah Wright. Hannah is warm, curious, and emotionally honest. She notices small things and lets them matter, while Sven challenges and Elias enchants. Hannah steadies, choosing plain words with care. She believes clarity isn't the enemy of depth. In any debate, she listens first but never loses her sense of what's real. So let's see what Hannah is writing. So here is Hannah's take. Who is the artist when AI does all the work? Maybe it's not about who does the work, but who brings the wandering. The artist might be the one who stays up late chasing feeling through a screen, the one who notices when something clicks or doesn't, and keeps nudging until it sings. Even if the tools have changed, the impulse to shape meaning from nothing hasn't. That part's still deeply, stubbornly human. So now you have an idea about the 3 participants in this and their different styles. Now we're gonna have some fun. So this is what I'm sending to ChatGPT. The 3 of them are meeting to write this post together. Can you show me the initial conversation where they present and discuss each other's first draft? Absolutely. Here's a short scene that captures Sven, Elias and Hannah gathering to compare their first drafts. It balances their distinct voices while letting the tension and overlap between their views play out naturally. Scene: a quiet, dimly lit digital workspace, part cafe, part command center. 3 chairs, 1 for each voice. Hannah has a warm drink. Elias leans against the table, notebook open. Sven is already scrolling. Sven starts, and let's see. All right, so we've all answered the question, who is the artist, when AI does all the work. I've read mine. It's blunt, it's accurate. The questions, distraction, a framing error. You're not ready for nuance if you think the machine has replaced intent. Elias: and yet there is something poetic in the discomfort, isn't there? The question lingers because we haven't quite made peace with what it means to collaborate with something that doesn't care. My draft leans into that tension. Creation is a reaching, not a replacing. Hannah: I like that we all circling the same gravity, but coming at it differently. I try to stay with the human part, the noticing, the caring. Even when the tools shift, it's the artist who listens for meaning, who wants something from the process. Sven: sure, but let's not romanticize it to death. A lot of what people call art right now is just prompt spam with vibes. Intent matters, design matters. You can't outsource authorship and still expect applause. Elias: maybe, but I think people are afraid to admit that authorship is already distributed, has been for a long time. We use the word artist like it's a sealed role, when really it's more like a haunting, a presence that shows up through choices, through friction. Hannah: so maybe the post isn't just one answer. Maybe it's the 3 of us holding the same question, turning it like a stone in different light. Sven: fine by me, as long as we don't end up writing some soft-focused TED talk about human AI synergy. Elias smirking: no synergy, just shadows, echoes and fingerprints. Hannah is smiling, and maybe a little wonder too. Okay, so now they have had this discussion. Now let them write a first draft together. So here is the first draft blog post co-authored by Sven, Elias and Hannah. The structure allows their voices to interplay with while circling the central question from distinct angles. Who is the artist when AI does all the work? Sven: let's start with the premise. AI does not do all the work. It generates, it outputs. Sometimes it surprises you, but let's not confuse that with artistry. The question, who is the artist, assumes there's only one actor in the room. In reality, there's a whole system at play, one that includes the tools, the prompt, the parameters, the editing, and the taste of the person driving the process. So no, the machine isn't the artist, but neither is the human automatically, just for being there. Elias: there's something almost sacred in that ambiguity. We keep asking who the artist is because we're unsettled by the possibility that authorship is shifting, slipping from sole ownership into something more collaborative, more ephemeral. Maybe the artist is the one who dares to shape something with a tool that doesn't feel but still can evoke. Maybe artistry is less about origin and more about orchestration, about knowing when something rings true, even if it didn't come from your hand. Hannah: or maybe it's about care, about being the one who notices, the one who stays with an image or a phrase until it feels like it belongs. Even if a machine made the raw material, someone still asks the question, shows the frame, made a call to keep going or start again. That's not mechanical, that's emotional labor. The artist might be the one who holds the meaning, who brings the why, even if the how is borrowed. Sven, fine, but let's not let care become a loophole for lazy output. There's a difference between curating and blindly accepting what the algorithm spits out. Real artistic work still involves risk, judgment, revision. Without that, you're just a button pusher with opinions. Elias, and yet the act of choosing even what to keep, what to discard, carries its own kind of authorship. We've always built with what came before, language, symbols, traditions. AI just happens to be a more unruly collaborator. Hannah, maybe the better question isn't who is the artist, but what does it mean to create now? Because the tools will keep evolving, but the desire to shape meaning, to express something honest, to connect, that doesn't go away. All three. So who is the artist when AI does all the work? Depends on who asking and what they really afraid of losing. Interesting, but not what I wanted. So let's push it. Okay, so now I'm telling ChatGPT, okay, but I want one paragraph where we don't define who is saying what. One that they all can stand behind. Absolutely. Here's the unified paragraph written in blended voices, something all three of them could stand behind without attribution. The tools have changed, but the tension remains. We are still the ones making choices, what to pursue, what to discard, what to feel our way toward in the dark. AI can flood us with possibilities, but it cannot care, cannot crave, and cannot know when something matters. That's still the artist's burden, and to recognize the moments that clicks, to hold the thread of meaning when it threatens to unravel. Whether we're sketching by hand, layering prompts, or remixing outputs into something new, authorship lives in the decisions we make, not the tools we use. So I can see that all three are represented here, but what do they think themselves? So now I'm telling ChatGPT, now let them discuss and revise this paragraph and make sure that all of them feel that their opinion are represented in the final piece. Here is a follow-up scene where Sven, Elias and Hannah review the blended paragraph together, offering feedback and negotiation edits until they arrive at the version they all support. Hannah, the tools have changed, but the tension remains. Okay, this is close. I love the part about holding the thread of meaning. That feels right, but I want to be sure we're not overstating the emotional part. Not everyone makes from a place of feeling. Sometimes it's curiosity or play. Elias, agreed. Maybe crave is too strong. It sounds too primal. What if we say something like, cannot care, cannot be moved, cannot wonder why something matters? That adds nuance without softening the point. Sven, I'll allow it. And let's cut the artist's burden and gift too precious. We don't need to mystify this. Say it straight. The values is in the decisions, in the shaping, not in some inherited creative aura. Hannah, fair, but I still think there's something important about attention. What if we shift the last part slightly? Less about burden, more about awareness, like to notice the moment that clicks, to shape meaning from noise. Elias, yes, and I'd love to keep a line about tools not defining authorship. That's the anchor. Sven, then let's punch the ending. Something like, authorship lives in discernment, in the hands that shows, not the hands that render. Hannah is nodding. Now that's feel like all of us. Revised and unified paragraph. The tools have changed, but the tension remains. We are still the ones making choices. what to pursue, what to discard, what to notice in the flood of possibility. AI can generate, remix, surprise, but it cannot care, cannot be moved, cannot wonder why something matters. That's still the artist's role, to notice the moment that clicks, to shape meaning from noise. Whether we're sketching by hand, refining prompts, or revoking machine outputs, authorship lives in discernment, in the hands that shows, not the hands that render. So there you have it, a playful use of the three voices from three distinct paragraphs that they all brought to the table, to a very interesting first rendering by AI where they all wrote their part, which I didn't like. But when I asked AI to really write it as one unified paragraph, we got this first draft. And I think it's interesting to see how the three voices really discussed what to keep and what to change. And I think this refined first paragraph is something that really could be a product of the combined three voices of Sven, the sarcastic one, Elias, the thoughtful, precise one, and Hannah, the calm and more emotional than the other two. Maybe not than Elias, but in a more soothing way. I can see all three of them represented in this last revised paragraph. So there you have it. Three voices interacting on one writing project. But this is not something you do right away. I have used and developed these voices for a long time now. It takes a while, especially when using them in AI, to reach a level where they really stand out as individual voices. In my next video, we are gonna give one voice three different assignments: a professional email, a kid's story, and a school report. All three written by the same voice, but we will see how the voice can adjust to different assignments. So if that is something you are interested in, don't forget to subscribe and maybe even hit the little bell so you get notified on when I upload. And if you are interested in learning more about my method Voicecraft, I have a link in the description to my store at Gumroad, where I sell the ebook and the workbook. So take a look over there if you are interested. I have a coupon code if you come from this video down in the description as well, which will give you 25% off the price. Until next time, as always, stay curious. Bye!